Good morning, members. Welcome to this meeting of the Lochaber Committee. The chairman has submitted his apologies for today's meeting. So the first item on the agenda is an appointment of interim chairman. So can I have nominations, please?
Alistair, I'd like to nominate Councillor Alan Henderson, if he's agreeable, please.
Happy to second that, Alistair.
Okay, that's great. I don't hear any other nominations, so that's Councillor Henderson confirmed as interim chair for this meeting. So I'll hand over to Councillor Henderson.
Thank you very much, Alistair. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting, special meeting of the Lochaber Area Committee. Any apologies this morning?
Yes, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Baxter and Councillor McLean.
Okay, thank you very much, Alistair. And item 3, any declarations of interest this morning? And I'll remind you of the note that convener Bill Lobbin sent out yesterday, which, remember, he's on about whether you've got connections to things or whether, you know, and ones appointed by council aren't declarations of interest. They may be connections, but it's up to yourselves. So, Councillor Rickson.
Thanks very much, Chair. Just if I could make a transparency statement, please, Chair, which, if it could be recorded in a minute, I want to make a transparency statement that I am the Highland Council nominee to the Isle of Rum Community Trust. Since it's a Highland Council appointment, I do not believe that I have an interest to declare. Nevertheless, I have decided I will neither take part in the discussion or decision insofar as it particularly relates to the island of Rum. Thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that. Anyone else got any other further issues of transparency? No? Right, okay. And Councillor Rickson has decided for the item concerning Rum that he will not be taking part. Okay, thanks very much. And that takes us on now to item 4. And this is as far as the Highland Communities Coastal Fund, Lochaber, part of it goes. This is a tidying up of a reapplication there. So I'll hand over to Martin. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm not sure if Fiona just wanted to cover a brief introduction to it via her report.
Entirely up to yourselves. If it's a double act, happy to take it. Fiona?
Hi, thanks, Chair. Yeah, and thanks, Martin. I mean, I'll keep it very brief. I think Martin's much closer to the detail of the project that we've got in front of you today. And I'm sure members are all aware of it as well. But just for context, when we first had the Coastal Communities Fund open last year, as you'll remember, you were oversubscribed. And at that time, there were 3 applications that were deferred for a variety of reasons. So this is the opportunity now that we've had to go back to these applicants and ask if they were ready to bring forward a proposal that addressed the concerns that had resulted in the deferring in the first place. So on that basis, we had one applicant come back with a proposal that was ready to be considered. And that's the one we brought to you today, which is the Thomas Telford Corpach Marina. But as I say, I'll hand over to Martin now and just keep that quite brief and let Martin cover the detail of the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fiona. And just to summarise very quickly, members, the 2 other deferred applications, the one was for Arisig Ayers, and they have indicated that that project will no longer be going ahead. And the other deferred project was the community store on Muck. Since the deferral at the last committee last year, I've made a number of attempts to contact them, but there haven't been any responses to date. So I'm not sure at the moment whether there's still an intention to progress that project. It may well come forward in due course. But as Fiona says, the only one in front of you today is for Corpach Marina. As you're all aware of the background to this, the application last time was for a £100,000 contribution towards the 3rd and final phase of the marina, which was essentially the floating infrastructure and a number of finishing works associated with getting the marina operational. At the time, the planning assumption was that phase 3 would cost approximately £1.2 million. Unfortunately, when the application came before you last year, they had no match funding in place at all. and on that basis the application was deferred because there was just far too much uncertainty around the position. Since then, I'm pleased to say the applicants have actually been able to raise 1.2 million in match funding across 4 funders: the Crown Estates Challenge Fund, HIE, Regeneration Capital Grant Fund, and a significant in-kind contribution from Maui towards assistance with the floating infrastructure for the marina. So they had the 1.2 million in place, and unfortunately, very late in the day, the tender for the pontoons installation themselves was recosted slightly because the original tender had been carried out in late 2018. The tender was a very rigorous process undertaken through Public Contracts Scotland and was subject to a great deal of assessment and discussions around value engineering. However, due to well-known inflationary and supply chain issues, not least as a result of the pandemic, the upshot of it is that the 1.2 million funding assumption for phase 3 is now £100,000 short. And the £100,000 is the subject of the final application that is before you today. The £100,000 specifically requested from coastal communities is essentially for finishing works for the marina, set out in section 5.1 of the application form. Just very quickly to summarise those, the works are external finishing and landscaping works, putting the car park to a durable surface standard, lighting installations, safety and building signage, fit out equipment for the cafe and facilities building, and general marina kit such as VHF communications and life-saving equipment, and finally some digital cloud-based software around payments and booking for the marina. So all of those costs are kind of critical to the practicalities of getting the marina up and running for this summer. The intention of this funding is in place today is that the marina is aiming to open for July in order to capture the peak season for 2022, which the applicants note is very critical towards their business plan and obviously to hitting the ground running. So in terms of the assessment that I have done, it's largely unchanged since the last time it was presented to you. Certainly in terms of all the technical aspects of the application, there are no concerns from a technical eligibility point of view. The 2 points I would draw your attention to in the RAG assessment status are project robustness and meeting local priorities. And just to touch on both of those quickly, in terms of project robustness, that has now moved from amber previously to green because they do have all match funding in place to do this now. And in terms of overall project robustness, it is, as was presented previously, a very robust project. It's been subject to consultation, feasibility studies, and a very good business plan. The sort of background to that is very well known, I think, to members as well. All costings and that are well informed, well procured. The community benefits are well known, and there's a robust, sound business case for the project. The only other one to draw your attention to, excuse me, in terms of the RAG assessment is meeting local priorities. There's no impediment to approval through the comments I've put on this. It was just to note that in terms of round 1, the priorities that you set for round 1 of your funding were projects in remote rural areas or that were alleviating pressures caused by visitor numbers. It was noted at the time in terms of round 1 that the project technically wasn't ticking either of those boxes. However, I think you should note just for the record that if you approve this today, it would be coming out of your round 2 allocation, for which you haven't actually set any priorities as yet. And so there are no impediments today in terms of meeting local priorities, should you wish to approve the application. I'm happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Many thanks for that clarity, Martin. Yes, I've got Blair coming in. Thanks.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Fiona, and particularly Martin, for both the report and that summary. I don't think anyone would be surprised to learn from me, given my comments at the last meeting, that I would suggest approval of this project for access to the fund. Last year, we were impressed with the application, and we only felt that the only impediment to that was the match funding issue. So we said to them, go away and do that, and they've done it. Based on that, and based on the content of the report, I would like to approve this project. Thank you. No questions, though.
No, okay, that's fine. You've jumped ahead of us here, but no, happy, because I'll certainly endorse what you've said. But Dennis?
Thanks very much, Chair. As you know, my nervousness previously was in connection with spending year two's money on an application for year one. But being pragmatic about this, given the inflationary pressures which are affecting everything, I've decided that I'm happy to approve this application. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, I think also, and Alistair, Martin and Fiona will agree that the money is already in the bag. It's not as if it's money that is to come into the council. It's been approved. The second round has been, and you know, that they've decided to step up and double what we expected to actually get. So, a fortunate position that we do have the money to actually agree with. Sarah, while you're busy coffee, any comments you have with their decisions?
Yes, I would endorse what I've just heard very much, particularly from Blair, which is the homework has been done in terms of match funding, and that means it's got to be rewarded, you know. And the other thing is I don't want the project to miss the first season. We've just been through 2 years of lots of missed opportunities in the summer for many projects and businesses. I want to approve the project and wish them good luck. Thank you.
Many thanks for that. Yeah, I think this is about the third season that they were just about due to miss as far as it goes. And they already have an excellent facility in there, so it'd be great just to see it. And the fact, as Blair rightly said, it's the hard work they've done putting all the funding together, because I know that they've had some very difficult discussions with the coastal estates to be able to get that money as well. So I think Crown Estates, that they've done really well. So all we were asked to do today was asked to consider the application presented for funding and agree whether move, defer, and to approve the application. So happy to give you that direction, Martin, Fiona and Alistair. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, in that case, I'll move us on to item 5. See what I have here. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, that again, we've got the applications before you there. This is the Highlands money that became available. We've already had some discussion on the thing, but here's the formal presentation of it now. Who's doing that this morning? Is it yourself, Fiona? Have you got the task of that? Fiona, thanks.
Great, thank you, Chair. So yes, as you said, this fund, it's part of the Scottish Government's Islands programme for 2021 to 26, which has 3 main strands to it, these being the Islands Infrastructure Fund, the Islands Communities Fund, and the Healthy Islands Fund. So the one we're looking at today is the Islands Infrastructure Fund, which is delivered through allocations that are made to local authorities with islands in their geography. So this year, the Highland Council received an allocation totalling 510,000, with the eligible areas in Highland being Skye, Rassay and the Small Isles. In terms of what would be eligible for the funding, projects need to be able to show that they're delivering against the objectives of the Islands programme for 2021 to 22. But crucially, given the timescale that this funding has come along with, projects need to be able to start immediately and to complete their activity as early as possible in the new financial year. So we would hope that when we get an allocation next year, we would have a bit more time to consider it, but this has come along as a bit of a rush this year. And in light of that, we've had some discussions with projects across the small isles to try and prioritise work that they have underway at the moment and see where the funds could be best directed. So I've got 4 projects that we would recommend to you today. Just give a very brief run through what these are and then take any questions. So the first one is the Isle of Kana Hub, and the cost we would propose awarding is £42,760, which would be used to complete the capital build of the new toilet, surgery and so on. So it covers a small shortfall in that capital build. Additionally, that would give them a small amount of money to also go to energy efficiency works, which would absolutely enhance the project. So 1,000 would be in the mix with the match funding they have already secured. The second project is a building called Foxglove Trust, and they're looking to restore the building and have it as a permanent accommodation on the island, which they have already identified a tenant who could move in and establish a new revenue stream for the trust. So a really positive impact through doing it. Again, it's a capital project that's ready to start and could be delivered quite quickly, and they would be looking for 20,000 to deliver that. Third project is Anlarig on the Isle of Egg, and this funding would be matched with funds they already have available to complete the programme of external works at the building. So it'd be essential to get that finished to really get the building open and up and running properly. And they're looking at doing things like the drainage, the paving, the accessible ramps and so on. And they would be looking for £50,000 from the island's infrastructure fund towards a total cost of just over 90,000. And then the final project we're suggesting would be work to make some road improvements on the islands of Muck and Egg. And I've suggested £17,240 to be made available for that. But I think my understanding is if there was any other underspend available in the fund, this is the sort of project that could be scaled up or down appropriately. So that I would look at that as the minimum allocation, and we would also look to see if there is other funds that could be matched with that. But as a standalone, that could deliver improvements to roads on both these islands. So in total, we'd be suggesting then an allocation of £130,000 going towards projects which cover all of the small isles, which hopefully gives us a good geographical coverage. So as I say, that's a very quick summary, but I'm happy to take any questions here.
Many thanks, Fiona. I've got Blair coming in here as well. But first of all, there was an application, and we did discuss it with Malcolm. It was for roads, a small application for roads on Rum for the small section they have at the Community Trust own there. I think it was about 9.3k plus VAT. Is there a reason how that wasn't taken forward? I thought it would have fitted in quite well with the application for roads and Egg and Muck as well. Any reason for that particular one? Thanks.
I'm sorry, that's not one I actually know an awful lot about, Chair. So I think potentially it could have been something that in discussions that Malcolm had, there may have been a reason why it was identified it wasn't appropriate to come forward. Unfortunately, I'm not sure what that was. I certainly spoke to the project officers in Rum and Egg around which projects would be most suitable from their point of view of coming forward. And that's where these have come from. And the roads project came from council officers and identifying where they knew that works could be done quickly. So I'm not sure if it was to do with perhaps logistics of getting contractors on the island or what the reason would have been. But I can certainly look into that and get back to you, Chair.
Yeah, I would be obliged if you could do that. It was certainly the quote that was there would have been from a separate contractor, but one who has got island connections anyway and would have been able to do it probably regardless. Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Blair.
Just a quick, thank you, Chair. Just a quick question of Fiona about the money. I don't think the information's in the report, but do forgive me if it is and I haven't picked it up. There's reference in the report to the overall allocation being available to Skye and Rassie, and that a separate paper was considered by that committee. Taking into account the decisions that they take, and assuming that we recommend today approval of these projects, is there a balance left on the fund?
No, so the Skye and Rassie Area Committee have already considered proposals for projects, and that was, I think, on the 21st of February. And their projects were totaling 380,000. So taken together, if you approve these projects today, that's the entire fund allocated. But as I say, the focus very much is around how quickly the projects can be delivered, and that was really the guiding principle around which ones to make recommendations on. So I am aware that if any of these projects aren't able to go ahead, we would very quickly need to look at reallocating that balance. But as it stands at the moment, I've no reason to believe that any of them wouldn't.
Blair?
Yep, thank you very much, Fiona. Can I just carry on, Alan?
Certainly, yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Okay. On the basis, I mean, the officers are recommending acceptance of these applications, and you haven't been given any information yet which would want me to counter that. So I would be happy to approve all of these projects. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, and certainly would I, because I think that it's good to see that money being spent, and good to see the fact that the islands had these projects up and running, have been able to cover it pretty quickly. Sarah, have you got any comments you'd like to make, or are you quite positive about us taking this agreement?
Very positive. Just one question. I'm just trying to see how much it would benefit the island. You're talking about doctor surgery. What's the current arrangement for the island in terms of GP arrangements, and what difference will the project make if you look at the building of the new site?
That's not the doctor's site. That Unlabreg is the big centre, their social hub within the egg. The doctors, they're actually served from Skye at the present time. They've got a completely different service that goes back and forth from there, and they'll use the village hall for the surgery there, as far as I know. Thanks. Fiona, have you got any comment on that? Thanks.
So I'm afraid I probably don't know much more than you've just mentioned yourself there, Chair, but what I do have is just perhaps a bit more detail. So as my understanding is, as you said, that the intention is this is a new hub for the island, so it would encompass a number of different things. So on the one hand, it would be aimed at benefiting visitors to the island, which is where the toilets, the showers and the laundry come in. But I know they're also looking at basing the National Trust for Scotland Ranger there and having that as the base for the surgery, as the Chair's just mentioned, rather than having to use the hall, with the GPs coming over from Skye, and also just generally becoming a reception and orientation point for the island. And it's located in the harbour area, so that it's very much intended to be of benefit to the local population as well as the visitors to the island.
Yeah, thanks, Fiona. Yeah, it is the hub. You're right. When you step off, it's basically the reception point. Everybody and everything happens about Unlabreg. Anyone else got any other comments you'd like to make, or happy to go along? Blair was in agreement with it. I'm also in agreement with it, and I know Dennis has declared. But overall, I think you're allowed the fact that Rum is involved. It won't matter. Anyway, we're happy to agree to that decision there. So, Alistair, Fiona, you happy to take that on board? Okay. I think that concludes the business of the day. I wish all meetings where we have to spend some money could be so amicably agreed. It would be great. But the homework's been done. That's the work that Fiona and Martin have done in the background. That's what it's all about. So thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of the sunshine today.